Morning. Right, well, I'm really in the thick of it at the moment, but I've spotted on our allotment, on a little derelict, little communal area, some elderflower. Now, I love elderflower. It's so beautiful, and it's a plant that really does just keep on giving. It's something that can be used for the flowers and the berries. Today, I just want a few of the flowers. Now, it's a little bit early, but there's several that I can actually pick. And what I'm going to make with it is elderflower cordial. If you've never had elderflower cordial, it's a flowery nectar of the gods. Really good drizzled over some fruit salad as a drink and diluted down, or even in your favourite cocktails. It has so many uses, and for me, I just need 25 heads today because I'm just looking at making about 2 litres, so I'm going to pick some of those. You couldn't mistake that for anything else. You don't want to be greedy with your picking, just around about 25 heads. What you don't want to do is to strip a plant of all its flowers. It's the last thing you want to do. I've just taken a few of the early ones and there's still hundreds, if not more, of flowers on the bush. These will grow into your elderberries, which is another great hedgerow bonus that you can use later on in the year. But for now, I'm going to start processing these elderflowers. Every year, I always miss the elderflower season. For whatever reason, I always seem to miss it. This year, I want to make full use out of it, but doing it without damaging the plant. Now, this is on a communal piece of land. It's literally overgrown with brambles, weeds, everything. So I know it's not an issue. But obviously, if you're foraging out and about, always make sure you got the landowner's permission if you're taking it off land or anything like that. And you want to make sure you're not taking it from somewhere that uses pesticides or sprays or anything like that. Also, too close to roads. Now, we have got a road here, but there's about 4 cars a day that come up and down it, so I'm not concerned. Now, you want to pick your elderflower either early morning or late evening and process them as soon as you can. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and take them home and I'll show you the start of what I do. So we've got our elderflower home, safe and sound. If you've never smelled elderflowers, they just smell like honey nectar. So pretty. Now, with this recipe, it makes about 2 litres, give or take. So it's always handy to have an extra couple of little bottles or have it somewhere where you can store it and use it relatively quickly. I'm actually going to water bathe my elderflower. Now, because I'm water bathing, I have not got a pan big enough for normal large bottles that we use, the litre bottles. So I'm going to be using these small milk bottles. Now, these are the perfect height for the equipment that I actually have to water bathe. Now, they do come with little metal caps as well. Using these will be perfect. So I can just open smaller amounts at a time. Now, water bathing, these will actually make it last for several months instead of a short space of time. You can also freeze your elderflower cordial and just take it out as and when you need it. But I'm going to be doing a couple of little things over the next couple of months with my elderflower. So I want some in bottles for long-term storage. And you can make some fantastic things with elderflower. And one of the things I will make out of it is some elderflower ice lollies in the future. So what we need for this particular recipe is around about 25 heads. Now, these are quite small heads because it's very early in the season. But literally, we're going to put all these in. Just inspect it for any insects in there. What you don't want to do is shake the elderflower too much because it produces loads of nectar. Now, all that nectar is beautiful and sweet. This is a recipe that will take a couple of days. The first part, what I'm doing today, is steeping the flowers. This will allow all that beautiful flavour to come about. For this recipe, we're going to need 3 lemons. You can also have an orange as well, but I have no orange, so I'm going to make do with this. Now, for this stage, all I need is the zest for this and 1.5 litres of boiling water. So I'm just going to quickly zest this in. Now I'm going to keep these lemons because tomorrow, when we carry on with the recipe, we also need 150 ml of these juices. I have got some extra lemons in case I need them. Now all we're going to do with this for today is literally pour on the boiling water and cover. Now we're going to leave it overnight, 24 hours. This will help release all those beautiful flavours in these elderflowers. And that is all the elderflower. Now I can already smell the lemons and the elderflower coming off of that. Now you want to be careful, obviously don't burn yourselves, but I'm sure most of you out there can deal with a little bit of boiling water. And all we're going to do with that is cover it with a plate. And we'll leave it for 24 hours and I shall come back to this tomorrow. So it's the next day. I'm quite excited to see what actually the elderflower smells like after sitting for pretty much 24 hours. Not quite as pretty as when it went in there. So basically what we need to do now with this liquid is strain it. Now you can use a muslin cloth. Now this has been scalded in very hot water, but I'm actually going to put it over the top of a sieve as well, only because I can't find my stand to actually put it on. And what we're going to do with this, we're literally going to strain the liquid into the saucepan. Every last little bit of juice from this. Now, as you can see from this liquid, it's not the prettiest, but the amount of colour that's come off that elderflower and the smell of the elderflower and the citrus notes is so, so nice. But we have some more steps to do before we can actually start drinking this. So to make this taste absolutely fantastic, we've got some more ingredients to add. Now, the juice of the 3 lemons that I used as the zest yesterday was not quite enough to make 150 ml of juice to add. So I added a little bit of extra lime juice. Now, if I'd done the orange as well, you probably would have had enough juice to actually add to it. But I thought a little bit of lime might actually go quite well with it. So literally, I'm just going to pour this in. Now, hard to believe, but this needs 1 kilo of sugar. It will need that sweetness in there. Now, I've got 1 kilo already here in a whole bag, so I'm actually just going to put the whole bag in. So all we need to do now, you can use a heaped teaspoon of citric acid too. I've got a little bit left and I'm going to add that to it as well. Now all we need to do is to heat this up to a simmering point to get all that sugar actually melted. In the meantime though, you need to sterilize your bottles. Now you have the option of doing it different ways. Now you can literally just store it in the freezer where you won't have to sterilize bottles or water can or anything like that. Or you can use sterilized bottles. This will last about 4 months. Or you can make it so it can last up to a year. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do the water canning method and then proceed to can them under hot water. And I'll show you how I do that. Now what we need to do is make sure you're stirring it every so often. Because of the amount of sugar that's in there, it will burn. Okay, these are my mini milk bottles. These have been sterilised in boiling water. You need to make sure that the glass is going to be roughly the same temperature as the liquid you're going to pour into them. Too much of a dramatic difference and you'll shatter the glass. Now, once the sugar has dissolved, you want to simmer it for a couple of more minutes, and then it'll be ready to decanter into your bottles or whatever item that you're actually going to use. Now, because I'm canning, my bottles are now sterilised. They're on the work surface literally just before I'm ready to pour. I'm going to use a jug and I'm going to use a funnel, so it makes it much quicker and easier to do it. Now that's gave me 8.5, so it probably was just under 2 litres, but it's close enough. And this bottle I'll actually keep in the fridge. I won't process that bottle. The rest are now ready for their caps. Now this water's already been boiling to sterilise the jars, so it should, in theory, match our temperature that we need it at. 88 centigrade for 20 minutes. But we're going to get up to that heat. Now the problem I've got is getting all these to balance without falling over. If you're doing it in a way where you're not actually filling up the whole rack, it can cause issues. But you want to have a rack in your bottom of your pan so the glass isn't touching the bottom of the pan where it can shatter. If needs be, I can always put in some empty bottles. In fact, I think that's what I'm going to do. So having these empty ones in there with just a bit of water actually stabilises the whole pan. So I'm kind of hoping it doesn't all fall down. Now your water needs to be about 2.5 centimetres over the top of your lids. And we need to get this now to 88 degrees. Once it gets to 88 degrees, we need to keep it at that temperature for 20 minutes. You don't want to go too much higher because you can actually cause some issues with destroying some of your flavours and things that's in your actual syrups. And any less, it won't actually be sterilised enough. It will not be hot enough or warm enough to kill all the nasty bugs that could be hiding inside. Now, this is a very basic canning thing to do. If you are going to can in the future, make sure you use a reputable recipe. It's really, really important. You can't just wing it. You need to make sure your ingredients is correct for the right canning method. Once the 20 minutes is up, you need to remove it. Now be really careful because it will be extremely hot, and do not place it directly down onto your work surface or chopping board. Make sure you put them onto a tea towel or a cloth. Now all you need to do is tighten up the lids while they're still warm and leave them completely alone until they've completely cooled down. And that is literally how easy it is to make your own cordial. Now, of course, you don't have to can it. You don't have to use sterilised bottles. You could just freeze it into ice cubes. These are perfect to add to a cocktail or two, giving you a lovely amount of elderflower cordial to your drinks while keeping it cold. You could also use your elderflower cordial to make lollies. If you're enjoying the content that I'm trying to put out at the moment, why don't you like and subscribe? This will keep you up to date with any new videos that I happen to put out. Now, as the months go on and produce is picked from our allotment or from the local hedgerows, I'll be trying to use those as much as possible. So I'm going to try and create some tasty ways to use that produce and ways to store it long term. Now, whether that is in a meal, so freezer meals, or whether it's in a way to store the fruits or vegetables long term, whether it's turning it into sauces and canning it for long term. This is something that I'm hoping to do more videos on in the very near future.